Hello, good morning, everybody. Today is a very special UK edition of the Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout for February 10th, 2017. I'm your host, David Leary, the Intuit Small Business Ecosystem Evangelist. You can follow me on Twitter at David Leary. You can follow Intuit Developer at Intuit Dev. Today we have two special guests. They are part of our Small Biz Hack UK London hackathon that we'll be doing with the Intuit Developer team. Nexmo. So we have Phil Legetter, he's the head of developer relations, and Sam Machin, he's a developer advocate. Before we jump in and just give everybody else a chance to finish showing up today, tell you a couple things. The reason these guys are here is they are some of our API partners for the Small Biz Hack. So if you go to smallbizhack.com, you can actually register for the event in London. We're going to be there March 4th and 5th. We're giving away £5,000 to the best solution for small business. So you could build using the QuickBooks APIs, you could build on Nexmo's APIs, you could build on everybody's APIs that are sponsoring Square's, Amazon's, Estimo's, Nexmo's, and just build something that uses everybody's APIs. It's really cool. And compete for prizes. I know Nexmo's going to have prizes. The individual partners will have prizes. They said QuickBooks is giving out a $5,000 prize, or sorry, £5,000. I have to excuse myself. Sorry about that. So hopefully all of you will, that are watching this are registered. If not, please register as soon as possible. It's on smallbizhack.com. And then connected to that trip, so as we come to London for the Small Biz Hack, we're also coming for another huge event. It's called QuickBooks Connect. So QuickBooks Connect is going to be something that's going to be attended by small business owners, accountants, and developers. So it's catching the whole entire QuickBooks ecosystem, and that's going to be hosted at the Tobacco Dock in London. The March 6th is going to be our event really just for the accountants, and March 7th is for the entire ecosystem. It's important for you to go as a developer. Yes, we will have developer sessions, content. We will have open office hours for developers, but it's really important for you to go, if you have your app and you're in the small business space, you as a developer, you want to meet those accountants and small business owners, especially the accountants, because the accountant can make or break your app. And I've seen this a lot, and a lot of apps have seen this. The accountant uses your app, they test it with one client, maybe 6 months down the road, they roll your app out to 30 clients. So from a ripple effect perspective, it's very, very effective for you to meet accountants that have clients, or you can try to sell your app one customer at a time, and that gets difficult. So there's a big multiplier effect in meeting those accountants. So you definitely want to come to QuickBooks Connect and meet everybody there. So it's quickbooksconnect.com/UK. You don't want to, unless you want to come to the San Jose one in November, that would be great too. So just make sure it's /UK. And then just a reminder, all the events, all the Hangouts we're doing are going to be found on the events page of the hub. Upcoming ones, we have all the sponsors from the hackathon that will be there doing these. I'll be doing special UK editions. And right now I'm doing 2 a day. So in 4 hours, I'll jump back on and we'll be doing some of those QB Connect encore presentations from before. So if you want to tune in later today, you can come back for Designing for Mobile. And we'll be having that one later today. And then next week, we have the webhooks. And with that said, I'm going to just stop sharing here and switch back over to Phil. Stop sharing. Things in my way. Just close that. Oh, stop sharing. It's right here. It's very obvious. Big red button. There we go. Cool. And Phil, welcome to the Friday Morning Hangout. You might have to unmute. If I have you muted here.
Sure thing.
I would love it. Please tell me about Nexmo.
Okay. So hi, everybody, and hi, everybody that's watching this later. So Nexmo is as you can see in front of me, the text, right? We're a cloud communications platform. We offer APIs for phone numbers, provisioning phone numbers around the world, sending, receiving text messages, making, receiving phone calls. We have a chat app or social connect API. For integrating with Facebook, Viber, WeChat, and probably more to come. We have an API specifically for kind of building two-factor authentication or one-time password workflows. We call that Verify. We've an SDK for that for mobile, for Android and iOS, and an API called Number Insight to provide you additional information about phone numbers that can actually feed in very well to the two-factor authentication workflow to try and determine if phone numbers are not from the user that they say they are from. So I mean, and in terms of usage, we use significantly for two-factor authentication. So any social application that you've used, common and well-known social coding platforms like GitHub uses for that two-factor authentication to protect users as they log in. And also, it's great for notifications. But for me, and the thing that I'm most excited about is kind of the interactive nature of the technology, the things that you can do that to interact with other people, and particularly, I guess, at the minute with the trends machines. So we're really interested to see how, I mean, certainly with the hackathon in mind, we're really interested to see how people are going to integrate us into those sorts of things. And I think specifically at this hackathon, we'll be looking to get people using the voice API. It's reasonably new. We're looking not only to raise awareness of what we're doing through this, but also to get feedback on our product and make sure that it really is addressing business needs and the needs of developers, and that's providing the sort of experience that developers now, like myself, like Sam, who's on the call too, that we expect from an API platform. So that's kind of what we are and what we're looking for.
Phil, I have a question. So can you paint a picture in my head or the viewers' heads? So I think Nexmo's owned, they're now a part of Vonage.
Yeah.
Okay, so
so we were required. Yeah, we were required.
Okay.
Mid last year. So Vonage. So we're in the UK. They're not so well known in the UK, but they do have an offering here. Their focus is more the providing the phone line, the broadband, voice over IP connectivity. Certainly focus more on the small to medium enterprises. The acquisition of Nexmo was we are now, I've even got it on my t-shirt, we are now the Vonage API platform. So we're the API side of things to Vonage now. At the moment, the majority of functionality was existing Nexmo functionality. The addition has been the voice network that Vonage offer, and over the coming months, over the coming years, I guess Nexmo and Vonage, well, we are one now. There'll be a lot more functionality that's offered through APIs that's built that might expose additional things that Vonage provide.
Got it. So you were already a communications API before you were acquired that handled all of these things like you've listed up on the screen, and then now Vonage acquired you, and now obviously they want to be in the API game. So then now you're going to probably expose their APIs eventually. Got it. Now I'm following the connection.
There's two terms that are bandied around. I think analysts know of these things: unified communications as a service and communications platform as a service. So Vonage with Nexmo, I believe, is now the largest communications platform offering in the world because of those two. Well, because of Nexmo's existing offering and Vonage's existing offering combined.
Got it. All right, cool. That's much better. Thank you very much. I'll let you continue.
Sure. So what I was going to demo is, I guess I should show a little bit about what we do. So these were the APIs that I mentioned. You can find them all on our website at nexmo.com. For the hackathon in mind, as I said, we're looking for people to specifically use voice to try and encourage people to do that. I don't know how we're going to hook this in, but that's the exciting thing about hackathons. And we're giving away these Lemetric clocks that are hackable themselves. And that's pretty cool. It might be that we bring some extra swag along with us, certainly T-shirts, certainly stickers, certainly some other things. We've got some cool gridits that are really handy to stick all your wires in. So there'll definitely be lots to incentivize people to use our APIs. But as I said, from our perspective, we're really looking to see how people can integrate voice into their applications, because we want to make sure that voice product is moving forward the way we want it to. The demos I was going to quickly show I'm not going to be writing them. There might be a little bit of typing in the console, but that's probably as far as it'll get. I want to send an SMS, show you how you can do that, receive an SMS, make a call, receive a call, and then I'm going to show one of the demos that Sam built, which is using one of our new voice API features, which is a streaming WebSocket connection. So you can take the call contents and push it through a WebSocket. I guess we can discuss that more when we get to it. The prerequisites for using our platform and obviously for these demos are a Nexmo account, which is unsurprising. When you sign up, you'll be taken to the dashboard. You get €2 free credit. At the hackathon itself, obviously, we'll be giving out extra credit. And within that dashboard, you can do things like buy phone numbers, get rid of those phone numbers, set up settings, and I'll cover some of that in a little while, and also look at your usage. There's a lot of stuff in there around analytics and querying the messages that have been sent and received, or the calls that have been made. So we obviously have documentation. We've also got libraries. We're working towards improving our libraries significantly. We've got them all up to a pretty good standard now, but that we're still working hard to move those forward. So there are libraries for, I guess, what are considered the 6 main languages, but obviously we've got raw web APIs that you can interact with from any language at all. So feedback on those would be really appreciated too. I'm going to be using the Node library. I've been doing JavaScript since 2001 for my sins, so I'm going to continue showing demos using that. I'm also going to be using, so we're a kind of API first company. So the dashboard itself that I kind of showed here, the functionality that's in there is generally built upon APIs that obviously we use, but also anybody that uses our platform can use. So we've created a command line interface. So you install it, it's node based again, so npm install Nexmo CLI, and it lets you do things like buy phone numbers from the command line, the console, the terminal, and create applications, and applications are something specific to voice, and I'll cover that a little bit as we get there. So you can do all sorts of stuff, query numbers, look at pricing, set up things on your account, do configuration around numbers, such as when somebody sends a message to your number, where does Nexmo make an HTTP request to or webhook call to tell you that that here is a message that's been received. But I'll show a web server that demonstrates that. So I'll dive into the code, and as I said, I'm just going to walk through it. I'm going to start with sending an SMS. Here I'm using the. Can everybody see? You see that? Okay.
Yep,
the code.
Perfect. You're good.
Yeah, cool. So the bit that I've highlighted here is we're including the Nexmo module. I'm pulling a key and a secret from the environment. So if I go to the dashboard, you'll see that I've got a key and I've got a secret that's being hidden here that I'm not going to share with everybody, although it is down here. So I'm going to have to change that after the video. So I'm going to take those values, store them in the environment, bring them in, and I'm going to create a new Nexmo instance. So this is an instance of this Nexmo object that's used to interact with our API. A nice little abstraction if you're in the Node world. I've got debug set to true so that we can see some of the interactions that take place with the APIs, and they're spat out to the console. And then sending an SMS is as simple as using that Nexmo instance, .message, send SMS. I've got a from value, I've got a to value, which is my phone number. I can't change that afterwards, so now everybody knows my phone number, and the text that I'm going to send. So I can obviously change that. And then I can get a callback to say, did an error take place or what's the result? An interesting thing here to note is that in the UK and maybe in other places, you can just send alphanumeric. Here I'm going to send it from legator. But in other countries, there are restrictions around what that from should be. So it will, in many places, it has to be a number that you actually own on the Nexmo platform. So I can run that here with Node. So send SMS underscore send. Yes, and what I'll do, I'll also bring up my phone. So this, can I make that stay on top? That's a good question. Always on top. There we go. And then it crashes. Let's try restarting that. That looked like a good move, but then it obviously is. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Perfect.
Great. Or did I just turned that off, didn't I? So, oh, no, it's going to work.
No,
it's going to work.
it.
Fingers crossed.
I can see it.
Yeah, demo gods. So if we bring that over here, and then I execute this command, that's saying it's sent. we're getting, this is the callback information, and you'll see that I've got a message that's appeared saying Legate hello. So I can change that. So if Sam decided he wanted to send me a message, I'm going to move that away slightly. Save that and rerun.
Hey, Phil, if you could just
Yeah.
pause for 1 second after you type something before you hit enter or do the next one. There's just a little bit of a delay.
Okay.
And the screen refresh, that's all.
So you can see there that we've got hello from Sam that's appeared. So there's a previous message that appeared that said Legate hello and hello from Sam. So it's really easy, really easy to send an SMS. So now we've sent an SMS, what about receiving one? Now, obviously, if we're sending an SMS and we want a response, we need the from number to be something that we can actually respond to. So if I jump through a few hoops, I'll have a number that I can paste in. So I'm going to use that number. Some of the interesting things here are that I can go into the console and I can use the command line to look at my numbers. So you can see I've got a whole bunch of numbers that are provisioned within Nexmo. One of those numbers is this number ending 555. So I'll just send that message again so that I've got the number on my phone. So we can see I've now got this hello from Sam from that number ending 555. Now, if I wanted to reply to that, I'm going to have to use my finger on the physical device. This is an interesting bug that my phone's actually that way, but the it doesn't seem to want to rotate. So if I want to reply to that, then how do I write the code for that? So receiving a message, I mentioned earlier about webhooks. So we need a way of Nexmo being able to inform our application. Our application is, say, is a web server. So we make an HTTP request from our service to your app when we receive the SMS, so that you can get that SMS and that content and do something with it. So in this example, I'm pulling in the same information again. I've got the Nexmo package. I've got the key and the secret. I'm using Express.js, which I think is probably the most popular of the like web server apps for web server packages for Node. And I've got an endpoint called SMS, and I'm saying it's a post request. I want to handle post requests. Now you can configure that within Nexmo to either send it as a get or a post. In this case, I want a post, but I need to tell Nexmo what endpoint to call. So I've actually got a saved command, hopefully somewhere. So in the terminal down the bottom, you'll see Nexmo link SMS, and then the phone number. So I'm saying anytime that there's an inbound SMS to this phone number, make a call to nexmo.ngrok.io/SMS. Now, I'm not going to go into ngrok specifically. It's not a tool that we offer. It's just a really cool tool to expose my local web server and give it a public URL. So it's a really handy way when you're developing locally. So if I execute that command, this is making a call to Nexmo to say, an HTTP call to Nexmo using our API via the command line interface to say, now anytime an SMS comes in to that number, make sure you make a call to nexmo.ngrok.io/SMS. And I actually have, I believe somewhere, ngrok running. So I've got this, as I said, this thing called ngrok running, which is exposing my local host 5000 server as nexmo.ngrok.io publicly. So if I now want to run my local server, I'll run it. I'm using NodeMon in case I need to make changes. SMS receive. Okay, so this is running. So as you can see, I'm just typing on my phone. I'll hit send. And you can see in the console below that my local machine has received that. So that's gone from my phone by the carrier network to Nexmo. Nexmo's made an HTTP request to my local, to ngrok, which has then sent it to my local machine. So you think about deploying this as a real app, it would have a public URL, and you can see how Nexmo can interact with your application and tell you that SMS messages have been received. So that covers sending and receiving SMS. Any questions about that?
Cool. No, I definitely can see where this can start being used for small businesses, right? Like as soon as an invoice goes overdue, right? You could send out a text to that user. Maybe you're on your way for an appointment, right? You have an estimate in QuickBooks. You're about to go to the appointment. You confirm an appointment this way. Hey, we're on the way. Are you there? So there's lots of uses for this for small business.
Yeah, I mean, my dentist, the doctors, they all send appointment reminders via SMS. So reminders is a perfect example. And the reason it's a perfect example and why SMS is used, the business case for this is that there's a 92% read rate of SMS. Email, it's nowhere near that high.
It's only 92. You would assume it'd be much higher. It would be almost 100%. Wow. I'm surprised.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's even more
that low actually for SMS.
Yeah, I mean, we could dig out some stats around that and maybe share them later. Our SMS product owner, he's got lots of information around that sort of thing. But there are all sorts of things that can affect that. I think in terms of carriers, we assume that all SMS are something I'm not going to cover here, but you assume all SMS are received and therefore read. But actually, not all SMS are received. There can be problems with the networks at times. I'm sure we've all experienced problems with our phones, or things not being sent. So we can actually expose a delivery. So in the same way that we've got an inbound HTTP request here to tell us that an SMS has been received, when we send an SMS, you can provide a URL with that sending, so that when the phone acknowledges that it's received the SMS. Nexmo can then tell you, hey, this was actually received, so we can confirm that the sending was actually successful. Because it isn't always.
Just to confirm that the message has been successful.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
You know how Salesforce can track when an email's been opened but a link hasn't been clicked? Does that confirmation only work when it's on the URL inside the text message?
Yeah, so it wouldn't. I mean, there are things you can do with an email. Yeah, there are things you can do with an email that insert images and various other things. I think that mean you can track opening. With SMS, you can get that it's been delivered, but you would need to put, if you wanted to track link clicks, you would need to make that something that goes to your site, and there needs to be tracking that URL on the click. You can't do anything other than say, well, has it been delivered?
Got it. That's a good question.
Okay, so that's sending, receiving SMS. As I said, for the hackathon, we really want to focus on voice. I totally get that people will use SMS. It's easy. It's a quick win. But for us, for this hackathon, as I said, we really want people to use voice. So we'll take a look at outbound. It is a little bit more complex. So again, it's all the kind of same thing. I'm bringing in my API key and secret. We introduced this idea of apps. So applications within Nexmo, you can think of them as mirroring the application that I'm building an application locally. Right, well, I create an application within Nexmo, and that will contain the configuration for my application. So it'll have an application ID. There's also, we're changing the way we do security with our newer APIs. So we're using private and public keys. So when you create an application, you get a private key that you use to sign your requests to our APIs. And here I've got mine saved locally. I won't go through the process of creating these applications, but the point is to know that those things exist. I'm actually using my API key and secret here, but because I'm using voice, it's not actually required. I'm passing in my application ID and my private key. So the library handles the signing of requests for me. So I don't need to we use something called JSON Web Tokens, JWTs. Good to know they exist. But in this case, you don't really need to worry too much about them. We generate them for you. And then to create a phone call, we're making an interaction with our API. And there's a reasonably complex payload here, but I'll walk through it. So we've got a to. So because we can support calling different types of endpoints, we've actually got this to, which has a type of phone. We could have type WebSocket. We could have type SIP. Sam, jump in if I'm wrong there. And because it's type phone, I'm saying what's the number. So in this case, I'm calling myself from my local app. And then you can define a from. So in this case, from is phone as well. And I'm bringing a from number in from an environment variable. And then what happens with this, the workflow here is that when the call is answered, in the same way that when an SMS is received, we make a call to you. When the call is answered, we inform your application, hey, this call has been answered. What do you want us to do with it? So to do that, for Nexmo to know where to make the HTTP request to say this call has been answered, we provide an answer URL. In this case, I'm grabbing something from GitHub, something we've stored on GitHub. And the purpose of the payload that you return informs Nexmo of what we should do with that call. So I'll open up this URL, a browser. Oh, I'll go to those end bits. So this is an array, and it's an array that has two elements. The first one is an object which has a property called action, with a value of talk. So the first thing we want to do when the call is answered is talk to the person on the phone. And what we're going to say is, you are joining a conference that was created using Nexmo's voice API. And the second action is something called conversation, which you could almost think of as conference, although a conference can have 2 or more participants. And the name of that conference is Nexmo Conference. So we're going to say something to the person when they call, and then we're going to join them to a conference. So that's the instructions we've told Nexmo. Hey, when somebody calls, this is what we should do do with that call. So let me run my app. So this all I'm doing is a one-off call here. I'm not running a local web server at the moment because the answer URL is actually a static file we've hosted somewhere. So if I run voice outbound, bring in my phone again. So we can say that the status has started, the direction is outbound. We've got a call.
You are joining a conference that was created using Nexmo's voice API.
So now this phone has joined that conference, and if anybody else were to dial that number, they would join the conference, and we could have a conference call, conversation. I'll hang up. I'm sure loads of people were trying to dial in there, but we'll just have to wait. So that's how to make an outbound. And as I said, there's lots of different things you can do there. If we look, I'm going to do inbound next, which means somebody taking their phone and actually dialing a number, and our application being informed of that inbound. But in here, I've got the different options that we have available for controlling those calls. So we can record it. We can obviously, recording a call could be quite useful. We can have that conversation, which is a conference that I showed the example of. We can connect, which obviously connects to another call. So, to another phone. So I could, you call it voice proxy. So you have an inbound call and you then connect it somewhere else. That's obviously a call center. You can call and proxy it on. It's also used quite often with to maintain privacy between two callers. So, for instance, calling your Uber driver, you don't really want to expose your real phone number to that Uber driver. You call into a Nexmo number or a virtual number. As part of that connect, you call the Uber number's real number and then provide a different from number so that Uber driver doesn't really get your phone number. And the same vice versa. The Uber driver wants to call a customer. The Uber driver doesn't call the customer's real number. They call a virtual number. Within your code, you do a lookup, and then you call the customer's real number. We've got some tutorials on this on docs.nexmo.com/tutorials. It covers the common use cases with voice. So that's what Connect's for, connecting to different endpoints, normally phones. Talk that we saw there, which was reading out some text. We've got a whole bunch of different voices, from Australian to Welsh, male and female voices, so you can have lots of fun playing with those. And stream. So stream is to stream audio to a call. So there is lots of stuff there. The main thing is to know that there are lots of different things you can do to control these calls. So in this example, what I want to do is I want to answer a call. I want an inbound call to be made. Nexmo will be informed that this inbound call is being made. It will make an HTTP request to my web server. My response should provide instructions to say what Nexmo should do with that inbound call. So I've got an answer endpoint that I want to expose. We saw in the previous example here that it's an array. An NCCO is an array of actions. I'm creating an array here. I'm going to have just a single action here, which is a stream, action stream, and I'm going to stream this audio to the call. I'm pushing it onto the array and I'm responding with it. That's all I'm doing here. I just want to show a simple example of handling an inbound call. What I do need to make sure here is that my voice application within Nexmo is aware that the phone number, is associated with my application. So I'll show the command for this in the console and I'll walk through it. So Nexmo is the command, app update. The app already exists, so I'm not creating a new one. To identify the app, I'm passing in an application ID. This is the name of the app. And then it's gone slightly around the screen here, but I could probably move this out of the way. We can see that the first parameter here that I'm highlighting, nexmo.ngrok.io/answer, maps to this get answer in my code. And then during a call, loads of different events take place. So it's started, it's ringing, it's ended, there could be failures. So any other type of event that takes place within the call, you can we'll make an HTTP request to ngrok, nexmo.ngrok.io/event. So I'm going to execute that to make sure that things are in place. And I also want to make sure that my phone number, let me see, where is it? I also want to make sure that the phone number ending 555 is associated with the application. So when the call comes in, Nexmo can go, what application is this phone number that I'm getting a call into associated with? So this is a way of me linking these things together. So now if I make a call, it's going to be really tricky with it. Oh, that's better, that's better. Oh, hang on a minute. So, okay, I'm calling. My web server is not running. So Nexmo at the minute is trying to make a call to ngrok, nexmo.ngrok.io/answer, but obviously that's not existing. That doesn't exist at the minute, or it can't reach my application server. So I need to run my local server. There we go. Now we're listening. So if I call that number again. Now, there's an extra prize at the event for anybody that can get what that theme tune is. Plus, it's a bit muffled. It could be the MP3 that I've chosen isn't the best quality. So I'm not going to tell anybody what that was, but if you tell Sam at the event, there's an extra prize from me. So that's an inbound call. You can see down here we've got these received events. I'm obviously not extracting the payload properly. And we've got an incoming call from my number. So that's the inbound covered as well.
Yeah,
so any questions?
The voice is really exciting. I can see a lot of uses on both sides. Like for small business owners need to call their customers, but I also can see where this, especially when you talk about like the phone mapping type situations, right, between numbers. Because of a lot of accountants now, they're a small business owner is kind of, their accountant is their whole back office, right? And so if the accountant needs to call a customer, if they can do it and look like they're part of that customer's business and it's not coming from the customer's phone number, I think that's really a powerful thing because they can basically say, oh, this is the accounts payable department from Joe's Plumbing, even though they're not really that. Then the next time they're like, hey, this is the accounts payable department from AAA Dentistry, right? And they can do that, but that mapping really enables those accounts to almost white label themselves when they reach out to the actual customers of the small business owners they're doing work for. Kind of cool.
It's a really interesting use case. There are some security things to consider there. I mean, it's a bit like you saw with the send and the SMS that you can set the from to basically to anything. Now, we do internally within our system, we have a bunch of blacklisted alphanumeric values that you cannot use. You know, for instance, bank names. You can't send an SMS from Barclays because that could be really, used in a very negative way. For outbound calls, it's the same thing. You don't want to be able to set your from as absolutely anything. So by default on an account, you cannot set your from to anything that you do. Well, if you set your account, the outbound from to anything that you do not own, then we will notice that and we'll say it's just a private call on the outbound. So as somebody that receives it, the inbound call, it'll say private, unknown. But what you can do is if you can provide proof of ownership, or I guess in the situation that you're talking about, if these businesses can confirm that they will allow the accountant to use their number on outbound, that you can flag that within Nexmo and allow that to happen, so that accountant can make outbound calls from multiple numbers to identify themselves as people that they represent.
So a developer would have to build some workflow to get approval, and then they'd come back and then request the phone number through your API, something like that. Got it.
Yeah, so that sort of thing. And in terms of the use cases, we do have nexmo.com/use cases. Voice broadcast, very good in kind of flood alert systems. I mean, I get them. I live in Scotland near the river, so I get voice broadcasts if there's ever any flood alerts. Call tracking, which is more of an inbound. But what a lot of companies do is they provision multiple phone numbers and they use it in different placement for, let's say, on an advertising board or in a magazine or on a website, and you can work out from that which phone number was most popular on the inbound to determine, okay, well, that advert was very successful for me. I know to do that advert again and not buy that billboard on the interstate or on the motorway. One of the things we didn't cover is obviously when you phone up, you might often, you're prompted by a talk, by something to say, press 1 to do something, press 2 to do something. So we do provide the ability to instruct or to ask for input from somebody that's phoned in and then provide additional instructions following that. So it's a bit like the answer. So if you say, if I have a quick look at my code, I could change this to an input, an action of input, and I can have event URL, and this be an endpoint that I want to be called when the user presses a key. I then know what they've pressed. Have they pressed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or so on, or have they pressed 1, 2, and 3, and then pressed hash or pound? And then I can respond again with a block of instructions to take that user off on a different workflow. So I haven't covered that here, but you can do what's known, IVR, what's known as IVR with our API as well.
So,
proper interactive workflow.
I mean, in theory, you could capture a credit card number and expiration date, and so somebody could utilize you and then use either Intuit Payments API or the Square API and possibly accept a payment through either SMS or through voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it. Cool.
Okay, cool. So the next and final thing that I want to cover was a little bit more, I guess, riding the wave of technology trends at the moment. I'll just have a quick. I haven't got a page ready for this, but we recently did. So I mentioned earlier we've got a WebSocket API. So in the same way that if I go to my outbound, I mentioned before that with two. So I'm making an outbound call, and I'm saying it's of type phone, and I'm saying it's from type phone. So if on an inbound call, well, so we can make calls to different types of endpoints. I mentioned WebSocket being one of them. So we can, on an inbound, handle a connect. And we could say, I'll just copy and paste this because it's probably easier to do. Connect to I can't remember the syntax of this perfectly, but type. I think it might be WS or it might be WebSocket. I'd need to look it up. So what we can do is we can have an inbound call, and I can say to Nexmo, when you receive this inbound call, don't make an HTTP request to an endpoint. Instead, make a WebSocket connection. Well, actually, the answer URL would return this payload, and then upon receipt of those instructions, we'd then make a WebSocket connection out to an endpoint. So the interesting thing here is that as a developer, you build a WebSocket server that accepts inbound WebSocket requests. So Nexmo is in essence, this is pretty geeky, but it's a hackathon, right? So Nexmo acts as a WebSocket client. It makes a connection to your server, and then we stream the audio and some additional payload over that WebSocket connection. Sam actually did a blog post. This isn't the one, I don't think. Let me find it. WebSocket Nexmo. Here we go. So I'll show the demo in a moment. So this is the example that Sam wrote up the details of this. So we have inbound phone calls. Nexmo then instructs. Sorry, at the top we have a REST call to the web app. Web app returns instructions. So the inbound call goes to Nexmo. We travel right over to the web app server. The web app server creates those instructions to say, okay, well actually, Nexmo, could you make outbound WebSocket calls, please? So it goes back to Nexmo. Nexmo now knows to connect those inbound PSTN phone calls to a server via a WebSocket. And we've now got this two-way WebSocket stream to an application server. The additional thing on the right-hand side here is specific to this application. So what we're doing is we're pushing the audio out to a browser, and I'll show that in a moment. So IBM have got this project called Intuit, which is kind of like your own Alexa instance. I guess it's in that kind of space, but you can run an instance of like an AI. No, it is kind of like Alexa on a Raspberry Pi on your Mac. And what we did is we enabled it to make phone calls and receive phone calls via a WebSocket stream. So I think Sam will probably provide better instructions on the day of how to use this, but I'll show the demo. So this is an example that Sam built, and Tomomi Amura on the team as well also helped out with making it look a little bit more pretty. So the point here is that we're saying this browser connects to a web server.
Connecting to audio socket conference.
It's saying connecting to audio WebSocket conference, and then I can call that number. somewhere.
Connecting to audio socket conference.
Hello.
Hello.
So you can see that as I'm talking into the phone, I'll probably turn that off now. Let me turn the audio. In fact, I'll disconnect. It's really difficult to demo this. But what we're doing is we're streaming audio from a phone call on my mobile to Nexmo, to a web server, and then pushing it to a web browser. So the point here is you can, if anything can consume a WebSocket connection, then it can also now be a participant in a phone call. And that's the really interesting thing, that we're trying to see what people can innovate there. It might be quite difficult to tie it to small businesses. That's not necessarily true. Automated tying in Alexa, tying in these AI APIs into real-time, phone calls, and automating workflows using AI could be a real possibility here as well.
Yeah, that's
and that really concludes it.
Capturing the imagination on this one for sure. I did have one quick question. Hold on, I got to flip on my lights here. Is it possible to do anything with images? Can I take a photo of a receipt, text that in? Is that possible?
So we don't offer MMS support as yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean I use services that let me take receipts and they're automatically processed. We don't offer anything like that at the minute. Sam's worked in this industry for a long time, so he'll probably come up with different ways of doing it. What you could potentially do is take a picture of a receipt in an app, post it to a server. But then if you're posting it to a server, the MMS, we've seen things like, truck haulage companies using MMS. They're out on the road, they need to take a picture of some damage, and an MMS in a remote place where data connectivity maybe isn't there can be quite useful, but we don't have that yet.
Okay, got it. Cool, this is great. It's really exciting. I know, I want to say, it looks like he dropped. So, oh no, Jeff's still here. Hey, Jeff, I know you had a couple questions. Did you want to throw those out there? Feel free to unmute and jump in. We have about 5 to 6 more minutes we can continue on for.
I just had a curiosity. I mean, why isn't it? I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this. You know what? Can you come back?
Yeah, no problem. And we're waiting for Jeff to kind of get his thoughts here collected. Is there any geographical restrictions? So if some of our U.S. or Canadian developers, if they want to build something using Nexmo APIs, do you have any gotchas or geographical restrictions they need to watch out for?
We struggle reaching North Korea. I think that's about it. One of our benefits is that we are truly global. It's one of our focuses. Sometimes people use multiple providers, and then they move to Nexmo specifically when they need that global reach. We try and ensure that we do adhere to the legal requirements of the specific network. So, for instance, I think in India it is that you can't send this sort of SMS after 8 p.m. And we kind of, we help people, the developers using our API, make sure that they're not infringing the legal restrictions for specific target regions.
Got it.
There are details in our docs around this sort of thing. And there are things like that to be aware of, but it really depends on a case-by-case basis. They're not necessarily restricted by us. It isn't us that's applying the restrictions. It's the carrier networks that do this sort of thing. Same thing can go with bulk sending. There are restrictions around that. We have a shared shortcode for US that allows you to send in bulk, but then we also have a specific restriction on that it has to be a defined template. So you can't just send, mass spam to people. But yeah, I think on a case-by-case basis, if you're targeting a specific region, we can help you find the things that you need to know in those regions.
All right, and so just to summarize what I heard is, if you want to go global, use Nexmo, so you don't have to use 4 or 5 different platforms. You get that out of the box for free.
That sounds good. I wouldn't say that. I don't do sales, but that sounds good.
Okay, got it. Yeah, Jeff, you ready? Go ahead and shoot. I see your camera's on. Looking good.
Yeah, we've had a lot of issues with Twilio in the past with deliverability. For example, the UK, we can't send, if we have a UK recipient, we can only send from a UK number, and the UK sender can only send to a domestic number as well. Is that the case with Nexmo as well, or does it have more deliverability with international and domestic numbers?
So this is likely a carrier thing. If Sam's on the line, he might want to jump in and provide specific details if he has them.
Hello, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm muted. Cool. Hi, Jeff. So yes, there is always going to be restrictions, but with Nexmo, you can send. Actually, the UK is one of the more open networks in terms of sender IDs. So you can set, as we said, any sender ID you like in the UK. Anyway, as you saw in the demo, Phil just set an alphanumeric of Legator. So UK, from that sense, you don't have to have a number in the UK to do that. If you want to receive a message, then generally it's better to always have a local number, if nothing else, because that's what the customer will get charged for. So if I send a text message to a US number, I think it'll cost me about 30 cents. If I send one to a UK number, it's free because I have unlimited messaging. But I believe we certainly shouldn't have it. We have great deliverability in the UK, and our UK numbers actually are often one of our most open number ranges. So sometimes we recommend a UK number if somebody wants a single number that can receive from anywhere. But as a general rule, I would suggest you always want to get a local number for user experience. But absolutely not. We can certainly deliver to anywhere. I think Phil said anywhere but North Korea is. I think there's a couple of networks in Somalia that are a little bit temperamental, but it really is down to that kind of level of randomness.
Okay, so then the deliverability issue then is based on the carrier, not necessarily on the API then?
Well, not so much. It's really based on the. Sometimes, obviously, when things go off to carriers, like you're trying to send from different numbers and things. But one of our things we concentrate on is ensuring deliverability to globally, and we have direct to carrier connections. I think we have about 650 carrier connections we monitor in a kind of constant feedback loop every 5 minutes or so. We're assessing the traffic on that route and automatically failing over and stuff like that. So you certainly shouldn't have any problems.
Yeah, I was going to say, and with some of our biggest customers, we've actually got an API that lets you, called the Conversion API, that lets you provide feedback on whether or not the user, so it's specifically for two-factor authentication, did they receive the PIN code? So we get the delivery receipt, but also we can get double confirmation that they got a PIN code. So we're getting feedback from our customers all the time about the deliverability of our messages and also text-to-speech phone calls. So, and we use that information in something called adaptive routing or routing if you're in the UK. That lets us do exactly what Sam was saying. It's part of our monitoring system to make sure that the connectivity we have and the routes that we choose for messaging is the best possible. It increases the likelihood of delivery to the best we can.
Cool. So just before we get signed off on here, Sam, you're actually going to be at the hackathon in person, correct?
Yep, yeah, I'm there. Certainly on the Saturday. I think
Okay.
I might have to leave a bit early from the Sunday, but yeah, I'm going to be there from first thing on the Saturday to help people get set up and credit. And another colleague of mine as well, Adam, I think, is coming, so there'll be a couple of us there.
And then you're giving out the cool that customizable alarm clock thing. I forget what it was called. I think.
Yeah, so that's our prize basically. Yeah, they're called Lemetric. I've got one here somewhere. So it's a little Wi-Fi programmable clock with you can display messages on it. It has an API. It has a Bluetooth speaker in it and a whole bunch of other stuff. So they're quite hackable. We try and make sure that our hackathon prizes are hackable in themselves as well. But I'll certainly bring. So we got some brand new ones as prizes, and I've got certainly one or two that we can bring along if people want to borrow those to hack with. And I think we might have some Puck JS little devices and some bits of hardware as well.
Got it. So then both of you obviously are customers of small businesses. Is there something you want a way, because obviously you're in the communications business, so is there some way you want to be able to communicate with small business owners? Or maybe if you have your accountant possibly using your API, is there some dream you're like, God, I wish somebody would make X? Like,
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I mean, before I joined Nexmo about just coming up for a year now. But before that, I was a freelance, contractor for a couple of years. So ran my own company, exactly the same thing. Had an accountant that did my accounts and that kind of stuff. I think one of the really interesting things is keeping on top. When you're trying to run your own business, knowing what's going on with payments and things. I don't remember to log into my accounting software and check things every day. And has this invoice been paid? And so actually just knowing. Getting those kind of notifications of what's going on, maybe sending to me was really useful. I think my bank did introduce a thing that they would send me an SMS when a payment had gone in, but only like 5 a month and only over certain amounts and that kind of thing. So
cool, that's interesting.
It's one of the nicest things about the new styles of banks, actually, isn't it? That you do instantly you sometimes get the notification on your device before the transaction's been approved by putting your credit card through the machine. And that knowledge of it being a transaction that's really taking place and being able to keep track of those things is super useful.
Got it. So definitely notifications. All right, cool. That's something to keep in mind for any of you that are watching this now or after the fact.
But I think one of the things there is, I mentioned like that interactive nature. There is no reason why you can't respond to these things now. So, if you ever want to flag if there's a transaction of any sort or something needs done, it doesn't just have to be a notification. You can respond to these things and make it more of an interactive thing. And it could trigger additional workflows to say, okay, well, actually, I want to query that specific transaction that's been added here, or just confirmation of those things all the time. If you're the sort of person that really wants to be able to confirm, deny everything, that is absolutely possible now.
Got it. Yeah, I could definitely see for like an accountant situation with a small business owner, like, hey, Sam, I saw this bill come through. Did you actually buy this? What was this for? And you could do a small text response back, and then that would categorize that transaction for the accountant, right? If they have a receipt or something, they don't know what it is. So that's cool. Perfect. Hey, guys, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. This is our first time ever doing Friday morning hangout in a friendly UK time. I hope everybody enjoys. Next week, we will be doing this again. I apologize. I do not know exactly who from the hackathon is coming on next week. Let me flip over here and check events. But everybody, if you go to developer.com developer.intuit.com/hub/events, you can actually see all the events. And let me just see who is next week here. Opening up the site. And so we have 2 a day. So if you guys really want to come back, you can always come back and do our next one a little later today. We're doing a QuickBooks Connect mobile presentation on mobile development. And so we have the next one. Next Friday is the 17th. Estimote is going to be on. So we're going to have Estimote. Then the week after that, we'll have Amazon Alexa. And the week after that, we'll have Square. So we'll actually, the Square one I'll actually be doing in London. So I'm traveling to London for the event. We're actually going to do that from CodeNode itself. And we'll do the Square one there. So all of you UK developers are coming to the hackathon. Definitely you want to return next Friday after that, and then the Friday after that to get up to speed on all the API partners we have at Small Biz Hack. All right. Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you very much, Sam. And thanks everybody for attending.
Pleasure. Thank you, David.
Hey, have a good one, guys. We'll see you in a couple days. Well, about 20 days. All right, bye.
Cheers for now.